Hey, how's it going everybody? My name is SockBot, and today I want to make a video on the hardest and easiest things to make in Dreams, as is probably evident by the title of this video. But I also want to go over how I create them in the easiest way possible, so I've decided to split this into two videos. But before I begin, I do want to say that I'm speaking from my experience as a player and a creator, and only my experience. If you disagree, that's totally fine, let me know, and maybe you'll help someone in the comments down below with a similar position or issue that I don't address, and I'm all for that. But disclaimers aside, if you do like this video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more, especially the more of part 2 where I talk about the hardest thing to make in the easiest way possible, but as always, no pressure. So I'll start off with what I found to be the easiest, because I feel like the majority of creators are still newbies in Dreams, given the early access hasn't really been out that long. I mean, heck, I've spent quite a bit of time with it, and I'm definitely still a newbie, so what I want to talk about first is the things that I consider easiest to build within Dreams, and that involves natural scenery. Basically, any kind of nature scene I found much easier to build than what I will talk about in the next video, and that's for a few reasons. The most obvious of these is that the general randomness of nature makes it relatively easier to QA in the end. Not everything has to be uniform, so whether you're working in rocks with sharp corners, or green pastures, or honestly even lakes and oceans, arranging assets or even smearing them with various materials is rather easy, and that's really all you need to do. But what I found the most useful is how Dreams treats intersecting objects, or namely, that it doesn't treat them, but instead it allows them to intersect with pretty much no issues. And this means that terrain assets can be used and reused constantly without anything looking all too uniform, since to the player they intersect seamlessly and then they appear as one terrain. So my recommendations for making these sort of scenes come from my personal experience and a little bit of what I've seen in the community as a whole during my personal dream surfing, and also on my review streams, which you should totally go watch on Tuesday afternoons. But for the most basic type of terrain, I recommend creating a single tile for each terrain that you will be including within your scene. Make sure it's the correct color so you don't have to spray paint over it later, and then create a small tile either using a shake with blend mode on or by just smearing it out. For blend mode, if you didn't know, just hold L1 and press square on the DualShock, or triangle on the left and square on the right move controllers while you're in sculpt mode, and you can then just drag up the slider, but of course, smear mode is totally fine. Each is particularly good for a different type of terrain, so definitely play around there to figure out what's the best for what you're creating, but don't worry about making it perfect, as 1, remember it's nature and nature is random, and 2, you can always fix it later with Flex properties. If you'd want the terrain to be even more detailed, an easy way to top up the detail is to add a painting on top of it. For grass, for example, you can add blades of grass by smear painting over top of your sculpture, and to go even more in depth, you can then edit the properties of the painting to make your grass flow in the wind. You can even use a paintbrush with the Keep Upright and Surface Snap guides to draw on flat terrain, but there are a few issues with this on curved terrain, so you may have to fiddle with it for that. But once you have this terrain, you can then start copying it around to fit the shape of the actual terrain that you want to have in the end. Just make sure that you have the painting and the sculpt selected or grouped together before you copy it if you did decide to add that extra detail. Twist and turn and scale the terrain as much as possible as you're copying it so that each section stays looking unique, and make sure that they overlap or you'll, end up with something kind of holy and not consistent terrain, I guess is the general idea I'm going for there. When you're done, or if you're having trouble seeing your vision, select all of the tiles that you're going to be using to create your terrain, and head into the options using the same button combo, and I'm just going to put that on screen right now because it's too much to keep saying it over and over. But head into the options for the group of terrain, and head to the Flex tab where you can choose to loosen the flex to make your terrain more seamless. This is far, far easier than sculpting an entire pasture bit by bit, and honestly, AAA game developers don't even do that, so take my advice. Now, if you followed this process before or after this video and are still having issues, here's some problems that I've run into and solved so far. If you're having trouble making the tiles connect seamlessly, and you don't want to turn the flex of your group up anymore, my best recommendation is to start with smaller tiles and avoid sharp angles that will emphasize the intersect of your terrain. If you're having the issue where your assets look too similar, or if you feel like it's too obvious that you copied your terrain over and over, you need to take a look at your original design. These tiles are supposed to be just the groundwork. You don't want to be adding trees or boulders or specific tufts of grass to your tiles right from the start. Nondescript rocks and consistent or even grass is totally fine, but the more unique you make your tile, the more it will look copied when you copy it. Instead, stick to a more basic design and create separate sculpts for further details and assets like plants. You can copy these too, just make sure that you're placing them independently from the terrain to keep it looking random. So, I guess if I were to give a TLDR to this video, it'd be nature is easy to create if you don't think too much. Honestly though, sometimes less is more, and thinking too much can make your nature scene seem artificial. But of course, that is just my opinion. If you do have any questions on nature scenes that you've been working on, feel free to leave them in the comments down below, because I try to respond to every question that I can, and if I don't have an answer, well, hopefully someone else will. But otherwise, like I said, stay tuned for the hardest to create episode, and make sure that you subscribe so you know when it's out. And then, let me know if you want to see more of this style of video where I walk through how to create specific assets in the easiest way that I know how. But for now, I hope you all are doing well. I will talk to you guys in the next video, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. But for now, goodbye!